So far, we have seen some examples of how to do plotting in Python. So we saw that we have to provide the data in the code. Now, it's very difficult to provide data in code. Typically, you want to have code independent of data. You want the data to be in some kind of a data file, either an Excel file or an Excel CSV file. So you want to be able to read the data from some data file and then plot it for whatever data you're reading it so that the data is never a part of coding. Now, I showed you some examples in which data was part of code because we were just learning how to do plotting uh, without having to learn how to read data from a data file because that itself can be not so straightforward. So in this video, we will learn how to read data from a data file. So I will show you the data file that I have. I have a data file which has data on rainfall amount for each of the 12 months. That's my data. And the first row of data is the header, which means it has the name of the field. So the first field is the month field and the second field is the rainfall field. So I have two fields of data. And the name of the file is rainfall by month data with header. So we know that the first row is header. I have saved this file as a CSV file and it is saved under my Python scripts, rainfall by month data with header. So it's the same folder where I will have the code. So the data and the code are going to be in the same folder. Okay, so I'm going to write some code on how to read this data file. Since it is a CSV file, I have to import a CSV library which has the relevant functions to read the data. Now, because there are two fields, the first field is months. I'm going to create what is called a variable of type list. So it's a list of 12 months. And then I have a list of the amount of rainfall for each month. So I have created variables which are of type list so that I can put values in these lists. So once I have read the data from the data file, the months variable will look like this: Jan, Feb, March, and so on. But the Jan, Feb, and March will come from the data file. I will not have to type it in the code here. So that's the whole point. Similarly, rainfall, once I have read the data, I will have the rainfall amounts in this list. So let's start writing the code. So we say with open, and then we specify the name of the data file. So what's the name of the data file? Rainfall by month data with header.csv. So that's the name of my data file. As CSV file colon. That's just a syntax. And when we type colon, the next line is indented. So this indenting is very important in Python. If you don't indent, it will not do the job the way we want. So now we'll create another variable called CSV reader, and this will use the CSV library, the reader function of the CSV library, and we'll specify the file. So now we are saying use the reader function of the CSV library to read the CSV file whose name happens to be rainfall by month data with header.csv, and put all that data into a variable called CSV reader. Now, the first record is record number 1. So if the record number is 1, we are going to read the labels, the field names. But if the record number is anything greater than 1, we will actually read the data. So we are now going to read each row of data where in CSV reader variable colon. So because we put a colon there, the next line is indented again. So the first row, how do we know it's the first row? If the record number is equal to 1. So notice two equal to signs. Colon. Now because of the colon, the next line is further indented. So if the record number is 1, I have to read field 1 as each row 0. 0 is the index for the first field. Field 2, each row 1. 1 is the index for the second field. That's just how Python is slightly weird. Okay. Having read the first row of data, I will say record num plus equal to 1. This is a way of saying increment the value of record num by 1. Else, what does else mean? Record number is not 1. So if record number is 1, do the above 3 lines. Else, meaning the record number is not 1, then I will say months dot append. So months is the list that we had declared above, and we are appending to it. What are we appending? The data from each row. Each row 0. So the first field is the month value, and the second field, which is rainfall, is each row 1, which is the second field. And we will do record num plus equal to 1. So we are incrementing the value of record number. So this will happen for each row in the CSV reader. And once the CSV reader is all read, that means all the 12 rows of data has been read, then we can close the CSV file. Actually, this will be not indented. It will be aligned with width. And if you want to see what we read, we can say print months and print. Let's just print months here and print rainfall here. Okay. So let's run our code one line at a time. So import CSV, no problem. We create a variable of type list called months, no problem. A variable of type list called rainfall, no problem. Now, we cannot run this line of code by itself because it's not a complete statement in itself. This is the beginning of an entire block of code. So we have to select the entire block of code. Having selected, we can run the selection. Okay, it ran the whole selection. So now we can close. Now we can print months. See it printed. Months is Jan, Feb, March, and so on up to December. And print rainfall. That's the rainfall. So now we know how to read data from a data file. And now that you've read the data, the plotting is very easy, and I'll show that in the next video. Let's save this. Let's save this as reading rainfall data file in Python.